Hello and welcome. It's time to break down BRAT. If you clicked on this video and haven't been living under a rock for the last year, you know BRAT. From the music to the fashion to the pop culture moment. The grip that this album had on literally everybody in 2024, actually suing. And it begs the question, why? Why was it such a big album for 2024? Was it the marketing? Was it the character? Personally, I think it was the music. Go figure. But that leads to a bigger question. Charli XCX has released albums before. Why did this one stick? And that's what I want to explore today. I want to go through the album, break it down song by song, and see what we can take from this album. Welcome back to my channel. I am Joe Torres, and today we are breaking down BRAT. I loved the album, as you can see. I am a big fan of it. Clearly. Please subscribe to my channel. I will be doing stuff like this much more often, and I am very excited to get into it. Few disclaimers, real quick. This is my opinion on the music. This is not necessarily a referendum, fancy word there, on what Charli XCX actually meant. Does that make it false? Does that make it valuable? Does it even matter what I have to say if that's the case? Yes! Every new analysis and perspective on a piece of art brings a new truth to the table, and it makes it more interesting and it refreshes it. I'm hoping that in watching this video, you have a new light on the album and you reappreciate it.
Cue the Trojans is a cinematic way to basically say, round up my team, round up the troops. We finna go. It's time to turn up.
I don't know if it was intentional, but you start the verse off with them till the condom rips.
Yes. Oh my God! I was not connecting the condom and the Trojans. That's crazy. My mind, and I didn't even know it myself. That's crazy. That ate.
Now, let's break down the album. Starting with the album art. This album art, I think the first thing people will think of when they see the album art is, I could have made that. I could have made that in PixArt. I could have made that in Canva. I could have made that on my iPhone Notes app. And my response to that is, well, why didn't you? Why didn't you? Show it to me, Rachel. You didn't make it. She made it first. I don't care if it's simple. You did not do it first. But I do get the complaints because traditionally albums are supposed to be a lot more intricate, or at least we've been led to believe that they should be intricate. You know, you look at examples like Cowboy Carter. That is a very thorough album cover. High definition, well centered, well framed, well thought out, costume, design, set, face. She's giving everything. BRAT, it's not like that. It is, in fact, the antithesis of that. And that's the point. You know, you think about the album cover, you think about how nonchalant it is, you think about how it's kind of off the cuff, not really thinking about it. It's handing it in a day before it's due, and that's it. Minimum requirement. And honestly, a lot of people would think it comes off as entitled. People are entitled to her body, she said on Twitter. And it may come across as entitled from her because she is not giving it deliberately. She says no. And some people may find that rude. Some people may find it, say with me now, bratty. Oh my gosh. The theme of the album is encapsulated in the album art. Ha! Crazy concept. You will find that this album's continuity does in fact continue it. Now let's actually get into the music. 360, the opener for the album. Now, I want you to think about what an album opener typically is supposed to do. This is your first taste for an album, so it's kind of supposed to like introduce the world. It's the opening scene of a movie. It's the first line of the book. It's the very first taste of this world. So it's very important that you get the album opener right to properly entice people into this world that you're building. There are a lot of examples like this. The first one that I think of trying to set the story scene is 1989's Welcome to New York. Another example is the artist's Headspace. That one's well encapsulated in Skinny for Hit Me Hard and Soft by Billie Eilish. People say I look happy just because I got skinny. So you get the gist. Opener, very important. How does Charli XCX open this album? She opens the album with a ringtone and the first line. I went my own way and I made it. Right out the door, swinging. Imagine meeting someone for the first time and they go, I went my own way and I made it. Oh, okay. Excuse me then. It's bold. It's upfront. It's, bratty. Crazy concept. I went my own way and I made it. I'm your favorite reference, baby. Call me Gabriette. You're so inspired. Hey, What the fuck does that mean? Well, favorite reference is being the center of gossip, being like a muse. Gabrielle is a TikToker, very niche, very like a mood, you know? She's just a mood. She's also in the 360 music video, which is fun.
And I would say it's about being really hot in like a scary way.
I'm everywhere, I'm so Julia.
I'm everywhere, I'm so Julia.
Right, I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, exactly. You know, I'm also everywhere and so Julia. That's a reference to Julia Fox. For anyone who cares.
Oh, Charlie, that's literally Julia Fox. Yeah, sorry.
But that's important because she's just naming a lot of names, saying a lot of things that just kind of add to the vibe. You know, if I were talking to a friend and I was talking about a friend that we both know, I'm not going to go on and try to avoid their name. I'm just going to say it. Like that friend who's just so cool. Oh yeah, that's just so them. And then when I do something cool, I'm like, oh, I did that. I think I'm speaking English. I'm pretty sure. So the point is she's talking about a lot of niche things, but like not everyone's gonna get it. And you know what? That's okay. It's not for you. She is done catering to people. She's just talking to her crowd. Everyone that knows her thinks she is everywhere. She's so Julia. Everyone who doesn't, she says it in the song.
I don't fucking care what you think.
She's at a party. She wants to get drunk. She's with her friends. She's not here to make new friends. That's it. And you know what? A lot of people may see that as annoying. I see it as bratty. Continuity. Yeah. So we can safely say the opening to this album is a brat at first glance. You know, you're at a party and you meet someone, and as soon as you start talking to them, they're talking about their friends. They're kind of hanging around their friends, maybe a little RBF. You may think of them as a brat. Now, entering into the second song, Walk With Me Here, you start thinking of a brat, you start thinking about what they like, you think, oh, this person, they like to go to the club.
Right now, right now, right now, right now.
Club Classics, the next song on the album. And let me tell you, it's a switch up from the first. It's faster, it's bigger,
Yeah, I wanna dance to me. I wanna dance to AG.
and it just goes absolutely crazy.
I wanna dance to me.
This is the next step into the person's mind. This is what they like, who they are, what makes them who they are. There are narratives that are being built. There are questions that are being surrounded around this narrative. I think going back to 1989, Blank Space is a very good track too because it helps with building this persona.
Say I didn't warn ya. So it's gonna be forever.
Whether it's true or false, it is a persona. We start with Welcome to New York. The setting is New York. Blank Space talks about who's the main character. What do they do? This person has a blank space in their heart and they write your name. Wrong album. In Brat, we are introduced to this person. The setting is the club. Question is why?
I wanna dance with George. I wanna dance with Sophie. I wanna dance to Hub Mo.
At the end of the day, she's not here for anyone else. She just wants to dance to her own damn music. Maybe dance to a few of her friends' songs. And she's here to... Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah. As the album goes on, however, we will find that this person is more complex and there's things going on under the surface that have more dimensions than you would initially imagine. Sympathy's a nut. My favorite song. Pump up the jam. Pump it up. Woo! I should be real. One of my favorite songs. Yes, because we have yet to get to some of my favorite songs. Mind you, this album is packed and we're only on the third song. Sympathy's a knife. Here we're starting to get deeper into the story, okay, the meat. And as such, things take a slight turn. The song starts with a stabbing bass. That's literally the kind of bass that's being used. And it's funny because the song is titled Sympathy is a Knife. You know, like the... Anyways, as you listen to the song, you realize the song doesn't really like to rhyme. It feels weirdly straightforward. It feels weirdly janky. I don't want to share the space. I don't want to force a smile. This one girl taps my insecurities. Don't know if it's real or if I'm spiraling. One voice tells me that they laugh. George says I'm just paranoid. Right, so laugh and paranoid, oh my... close enough. A+. It's interesting because the production of the song makes it sound like everything's right in your face.
One voice tells me that
You know, it's being recorded right there. The melody is really super one note, really monotone, and it's kind of jarring at first. You may listen to it and think this is kind of boring, but it does multiple things. A boring melody really allows the person to hear what's being said. It would be even more jarring if the melodies were weird. You can't have both. You can't have a jarring melody and then a song that doesn't rhyme. Then people just don't know what to latch onto. They're trying to listen for some rhythmic familiarity and they got nothing. So if you're gonna make one thing boring, make the other thing interesting. And the other thing that's interesting is the production that's really flashy and the lyrics that don't rhyme. You're allowed to have a boring melody if that's the case. So Charlie's talking about this girl that's giving her a little bit of insecurities and she doesn't feel like she belongs in this space. And her fiance George is telling her, you're making that shit up. Cuckoo. It's interesting because the fast pace of the song feels kind of anxiety riddling, and the anxiety keeps on building and building, and the listener is anticipating something to change, and it all comes to this moment where it explodes in the chorus. And the song suddenly feels like it's in the middle of a stadium. She's in the stadium all alone, saying very vulnerable things like she couldn't even be her if she tried. Which honestly, think about it. How many of you guys would say that to yourself? Right. Now, I would like to say we do have to address the elephant in the room, and that is the monster on the hill, Taylor Swift. This song is allegedly supposed to be about her. Interestingly enough, when Charlie opened for Taylor Swift on the Reputation Stadium tour, she said she felt like she was waving to a bunch of 5-year-olds, which made her feel like this was not her crowd. And I'm sure that must be really jarring, especially knowing that Taylor is now one of the biggest artists in the world. And it's difficult because while she wants to do her own thing, she can't help but see that the example is this person. And to some extent, you should strive for that, but it's really not her. She doesn't identify with that at all, but it's what does well. So maybe she needs to give up a part of herself. She feels like she's never able to fit in, and because of that, she feels abrasive towards this person because any amount of sympathy is belittling to her. At the end of the song, she ends up shouting, all the sympathy is just a knife, because of how frustrating all of it is. And she hates the feeling of pity, whether it is directed towards her or for herself. It's just weirdly humiliating. At the end of the day, she wouldn't need somebody's sympathy comforting her if she were at the top of her game. She wouldn't feel out of place if she was the best. And it starts to break down this mask of what a brat is, because at the end of the day, it really is a mask. We're already starting to realize that the brat persona is ego, and placing your dignity in ego will always leave you feeling short. My hair fucking sucks! My hair fucking sucks! I might say something stupid. My family and friends, you know I will say something stupid. I will say something stupid. Matter of fact, I did say something stupid. Right now. This song, track number 4, really slows down the tone. You know, we've had 360, we've had a club banger, we've had a little bit of an anxious insecurity song. Love me a good anxious insecurity song. But now we're slowing things down. Now we're depressed. Depressed. You're so depressed. The color of my underwear. Okay. If you're thinking about this in like a setting, you can think of this as like the song where you start to disassociate at a party, right? If you're at a party, it's getting late and you're just like, girl, I guess it's that time of night where I start rethinking everything. What can you do? It's interesting. This song is very short and very poem-like, and it's very direct. And the auto-tune, very apparent. Talk to myself in the mirror. Mariah Carey, she's coming for your gig. However, as a narrative device, it's brilliant because auto-tune is a tool that constricts your voice to specific melodies and keys. It's forcing you to be constricted to a certain form. And Charlie has felt like this all of her life. She has felt constricted. She's felt like she has nowhere to walk. And if she were to make any mistakes, we know it. We hear the mistakes. And that's why she starts to feel like she is perfect for the background. This song is really spacious and it's really depressing. These chord choices are really interesting. I've never heard her choose these chords before. They're really tense. They're really emotional.
I don't feel like nothing special.
They're really isolating.
I snag my tights out on the lawn chair.
You feel alone when you're listening to this. For Charli XCX, her main qualms are that she feels like she's famous, but not quite. This goes back to Taylor Swift in Sympathy is a Knife, where she wishes she had more fame, but also at the same time wishes she was more niche and just wishes there was a group for her. She has felt this entire time like she doesn't belong. And that's huge because from the beginning of the album, we were led to believe that she's right where she belongs and she dictates the vibe. But only 4 songs in, we realize she's actually very insecure and she constantly feels like she does not belong. And what's interesting is that this is only track 4, which should give you an indication that there are definitely things that we're going to get into later on. We've got more to come. Now, I would like to mention now the structure of the song. If you notice in the spelling of I Might Say Something Stupid, the only word that's capitalized is I at the very beginning of the sentence. Keep that word in your mind. And if you look at the album track list, everything is in that structure except for proper nouns. In poetry, this is something called sentence structure, where lines are punctuated as if they are being spoken normally. Lana Del Rey does this on her album Did You Know That There's a Tunnel Under Ocean Boulevard? Mouthful. And it's supposed to give this like nonchalant, off the cuff vibe. That's what Charli's going for. It plays back into the BRAT narrative, especially going back to the album cover thought process. You know, it's all very off the cuff, but because of that, it's very real. This goes back to the writing on Sympathy is a Knife, you know, not really rhyming, but it feels a lot like she's just saying these things as they're coming to her mind. I Might Say Something Stupid. Very odd song title, but very straightforward. And honestly, more poetic than you may actually think. Oh my gosh, I love this song so much. I need to eat it up. I need to eat it right now. Right now. Love song alert. This song picks things back up. This song is very crying, and then your favorite song comes on and you're like, oh, clean that shit up. We gotta go. Notice how Love Song is number 5 on the list. Clearly, the priorities are, well, clear. In terms of narration and the point of the story, love is not the first thing on a brat's mind. And it's certainly not the deepest topic they'll consider. Honestly, it's really straightforward. Homegirl likes what she sees and wants this person to, well, talk to her. Well, yes. This is kind of a nice song. This is kind of a very mushy song, almost. And you wouldn't necessarily think of a brat being mushy, but it just shows that they do have a relatively vulnerable side, and it shows something interesting. I think the biggest thing this song shows is that a brat, Charli, wants to be liked, to be loved. And I think this does play back into the songs that we've already touched on. I Might Say Something Stupid, I'm famous but not quite, so she kind of feels out of place. Sympathy is a Knife, hyperfixating on people laughing at her. These ideas of what people think are constantly in a brat's mind. She does not live for herself. She lives sort of for other people. She wants to be the inspiration for everyone, like on 360. She wants to be the party girl. She wants to be liked, to be loved. I think Talk being placed on the album where it is supposed to just deepen that narrative on every front, because now it's not just random people, now it's love interest. Random people that she finds interest in have to like her back in order for her to feel some semblance of validation. That's what I'm picking up on. Huh, check that. I will still remember working late and going onto YouTube to take a break and seeing this song released 20 minutes ago with a music video. I watched it, had not listened to the song prior. Changed my life. The world stopped and did not carry on. Evil Beyonce be like, don't carry on. 2024, I streamed that song for 5 hours. Not straight, but collectively. This song is pretty straightforward. It is a song about Charli addressing her haters, the people that don't like her. Charli says this song is about being criticized behind your back. So just like Talk, how we were talking about people, Von Dutch is talking about people that we don't like, and you showing your teeth for those people.
It's okay to just admit that you're jealous of me.
The production of the song is everything.
It's alright to just admit
From the raving beat to her repeating, I'm your number one, to the fact that she owns it by saying, I'm just living that life. She likens herself to being a cult classic in your eardrums. Oh, peep the shirt. Cult classic like Von Dutch, the brand. So now I want to get into some things about the song logistically. This song was the first single off the BRAT album. It was the first song that was released. And I want to talk about lead singles for a second because typically there's a certain ideology around lead singles. They should say something about the sonic image of the album. That is the way the album is going to sound. It builds hype. It's usually the one that the artists think is going to do the most well on the charts. However, while I may believe that Charlie did think that this song would be the hit, I would also believe it if she just chose this for narrative purposes. This being the first taste into the album cycle versus 360 being the first taste does hit different. Von Dutch, if you were to think of it as a first impression, is a resting bitch face. And that's important because it kind of diverts the understanding of the album into another direction. You know, she's preaching, I'm your number one. She is declaring this title and everyone's thinking, okay, the album's going to be called BRAT. Obviously, it's going to be bratty. But if you listen to the album in order, you run into songs like Sympathy is a Knife, and I might say something stupid, and you realize that Von Dutch is half a declaration and the other half overcompensating for an inflated ego. And you would only understand that by getting to know the album, just like you would only understand the Brat's perspective by getting to know the Brat herself. That, I think, is the point she may be trying to paint here. With that being said, it may have been a fun way to divert people's attention, a little troll, who knows, but it sounds very on brand for a Brat. Moving on. Everything is romantic, bitches! This is also one of my favorite songs. Go figure! There's a lot to unpack on this one. Yes, there is. There's a lot to unpack on this one, so sit back down. The song starts out real beautiful like, with strings and clarinets. Feels very cinematic, very 70s almost. But just when you think it's going one place, it goes another.
Bad tattoos on leather tan skin, Jesus Christ on a plastic sign.
Giving very much whiplash, giving very much chiropractic appointment gone bad. These lyrics? Genius is quite nice. Everybody say thank you, Genius. In these two lines, Charlie shows the symbiosis of beauty and ugliness, primitive and elitist, man-made and divine. It can be assumed that these lines refer us to the unsuccessful desire of the lyrical heroine to overcome the framework of materialism in order to find platonic love. Okay, lyricists, this song is all about dichotomy, so keep that in mind as we move further into it. So we kind of circle around these lyrics. We hear this.
Bad tattoos on leather tan skin, Jesus Christ on a plastic sign.
And the verse continues.
Fall in love again and again, riding roads through manual drive.
Where the hell is this going?
Early nights in white sheets with lace curtains, Capri in the distance.
Well, here.
Bad tattoos on leather tan skin, Jesus Christ on a plastic sign.
Now the lyrics are faster, the beat speeds up.
Fall in love again and again, winding roads through manual drive.
And it all builds to this epic conclusion. Absolutely epic.
Everything is romantic.
The production?
Everything is
The way the beat constantly switches?
romantic.
Oh. Pure cinema. And when it gets crazy, it slows down.
Lemons on the trees.
Back to the whiplash, we're getting more descriptors of her surroundings
Neon orange drinks on the beach. 4 generations make up a family.
until she finally starts repeating that one line.
Fall in love again and again. Fall in love again and again. Fall in love.
The song starts to build and then it all pulls back and she gets a vocoder on there.
Fall in love again and again. And fall in love again and again. Fall in love.
And it all builds from there
Fall in love again and again. Fall in love again and again. Fall in love.
until it finally stops.
Fall in love again and again.
With all that's left, the sound of rain. Sorry, I had to go through it really quick. Now let's break it down. I am so interested in how everything is so extreme in this song. The imagery of Jesus Christ on a plastic sign, leather tanned skin, it's all very striking and works well with the production's narrative. And the point of this is to paint a picture of the mundane, the good, the bad, and the ugly. All of these things are painted together in this rapid commotion, and it makes you feel a weird sense of delight knowing that you're experiencing these things and that you're alive. Life rises and falls. It has all of these ebb and flows, just like the production. But it's this weird symbiotic relationship with pleasure and pain that makes life weirdly make sense. You can't experience the Son of Capri without having the rain, like the rain at the end of the song. You know, it's interesting, the outro and the chords of the outro feel kind of off. If you're musically inclined, you know what I mean. There's chords in there that if they were structured differently, it would be cliche, but the cadence of them kind of chops it off in half. Mitski actually explains that in her song Bug Like an Angel. She does the same thing.
Bug Like an Angel starts with D flat major, A flat major, E flat major, B flat major. In the middle of what we think is the chord progression, there's a bug like an angel stuck. And I wanted to do that because I wanted to give a feeling of being off balance.
And it's supposed to make the song feel off kilter, but at the end of the day, you vibe with it, it works, and weirdly enough, after living through it, you wouldn't have it any other way. That's kind of how this song is supposed to be. If you let life just do as it does, and you let yourself experience it, it's beautiful. It makes you feel so grounded, and you feel a sense of purpose, and you wouldn't have it any other way. Life is mysterious and beautiful and truly interesting with those with eyes to see. And what's interesting is that these relatively existential thoughts are something that a brat thinks about. They're somewhat intuitive, they're somewhat interested in the way life works, because there must be an answer to these questions that you would have. And sometimes it's all really overwhelming. Sometimes you don't get that answer, and that's okay, because when you do, it's worth it. Rewind, 1999's more personal sister. This song is all about, you guessed it, wanting to rewind, about that nostalgia. And before I get into it, quick rant, I hate nostalgia songs. Either the nostalgia is too niche or it's cliche tropes of nostalgia. You know, I feel like the old 1999 did that. I just want to go back, sing Hit Me Baby one more time. Sure. But the way you're singing it, the way you're saying it, it doesn't make me feel a sadness. Which, not to get all etymological here, but the word nostalgia, if you break it down in the ancient Greek, it does mean the pain of returning. So there is a pain, and I don't feel that. I don't feel that pain when you talk about your personal experiences with nostalgia, because the only one who shares that is you. When you talk about, I just want to go back to riding my bike around the cul-de-sac, I didn't live on a cul-de-sac. I don't care. But then you take the other route and you start being too broad and you say, I just want to go back to whipping and nay-naying. You have 37 hours left to live. It's hard to make a nostalgia song because you have to make it feel nostalgic without actually naming it. It's showing, not telling. However, Rewind is interesting because it doesn't actually play into the classic nostalgia song tropes of talking about what you're nostalgic for. Because instead of saying what she wants to run to, she is explaining what she wants to run from.
I'd go back in time to when I wasn't insecure,
to when I didn't overanalyze my face shape. Nowadays, I only eat at the good restaurants.
but honestly, I'm always thinking about my weight.
I love the record scratch in there.
Sometimes
It's just such a fun Easter egg, you know, like the little rewind. She explains that she constantly feels restricted in her looks, in her success, and this restriction that she's feeling is apparent in the amount of auto-tune that she's using again.
that keep running through my mind.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that narrative device is coming back. The success thing is interesting because it goes back to Sympathy as a Knife again. Except this time, when faced with the constant comparison, what she does is escapes. This explains the behavior of club classics. It's interesting because the chords are pretty simple. The production's interesting, but having simple chords, again, like Sympathy as a Knife, allows the lyrical content to shine, which reads very diaristically. And then finally in the outro, the production goes crazy. And still crazy. Till it's not. I think this is supposed to signify how much she feels stuck in this feeling, but every once in a while she feels a sense of relief, and that relief may come from the club, from the escapism that she seeks. It's interesting because I feel like these songs were really circling around the same thoughts. We're thinking about other people, stuck in our head, don't know what other people think of us. We care about that. For the last 8 songs, we've been spiraling until the climax of this album.
Always on my mind.
Now we're getting into the meat and potatoes of this record. Everything before was romantic. This shit ain't romantic anymore. For those who don't know, this song is a tribute to the singer, songwriter, producer, Sophie. She worked with Charlie XCX on her song Vroom Vroom, which for Charlie was her first departure from mainstream pop.
Bitches know they can't catch me.
Tragically, Sophie died at the end of 2021 after accidentally falling off a balcony. It's interesting, when you think of tribute songs, you think You Are Amazing, I Will Never Forget You, You Will Be Missed. However, Charlie doesn't do that. Or rather, she does that, but she also says, I am so sorry that I treated you poorly and constantly pushed you away.
Why did I push you away? I was scared sometimes.
Suddenly, the lifestyle of a brat is very clear. Isolation. A brat is caught in this vicious cycle of depending on their ego to make them feel a sense of dignity. But when manifested, it amounts to nothing. And they don't feel this dignity in regular life. They don't feel worthy of anyone's love. They don't feel enough of anyone's love. They don't feel enough of anyone's attention. And they constantly put on this mask because nothing is enough. They push people away. They isolate themselves from everyone. They're stuck inside their head and they're constantly left alone. You feel this loneliness when the second verse hits.
Always on my mind.
It feels big, like you're in a stadium all alone. Again, going back to Sympathy as a Knife, but much more isolating.
Your star burns so bright.
And it's a shame because she doesn't actually want to be alone like she expressed in Tok Tok.
Why did I push you away? I was scared sometimes.
But she still finds herself pushing people away and she's constantly on the outside.
You had a power like a lightning strike.
And in this song, you feel that. I truly believe that this song is the narrative turning point in the album because an external event like the death of a friend is forcing Charlie to recognize the behavior that she is doing. And she sees for the first time that being a brat is coming off as cold and uninviting. And that's not only hurting herself, but everyone around her and the relationships around her. Unfortunately, it's not good behavior and it's led Charlie to one of the biggest regrets in her life. You know, it's interesting because I feel like if this song and everything after this album did not come out and we just had the first 8 tracks, I feel like this album would have been received the same way Charlie, her self-titled album, was received, because honestly they have very similar themes, but the packaging was different and there is now a different perspective that sheds a light on what to do next, and because of that its impact is leagues different. Y'all, put your hands up for this diva. This song, let me just say, the first time hearing this album, when I heard this song, tonal difference immediately. I knew we had entered new territory because everything before this was hee hee ha ha. It is no longer hee hee ha ha. Now we're alone. And now making friends with a girl is, well, confusing.
It's so confusing sometimes to be a girl.
This song is about being on the outside and overthinking every social situation.
How do you feel being a girl?
Again, now being a brat is not paying off. You're starting to realize that you are off-putting.
Yeah, I don't know if you like me. Sometimes I think you might hate me.
You are starting to realize that if you want to make a genuine connection, now the persona that you've built up is not really working for you.
Sometimes I think I might hate you. Maybe you just want to be me.
You're hyper aware of your RBF and you feel like people that are like you don't actually like you.
People say we're alike. They say we've got the same hair.
You feel the emotion in the chord progression, and honestly, for some reason, it feels very 2015. This song being after So I makes so much sense. Seeing the repercussions of being standoffish, and then directly afterwards realizing that you are constantly standoffish. And that is the reason you feel weird about these relationships that you have. And unfortunately, it took someone dying to realize that your friendships right now are not what you want them to be.
Maybe we're so meant to be, just you and me.
And again, going back into the narrative device of the autotune, very restricting. She feels restricted.
At least we're closer to being on the same page.
Now, I want to briefly say something. It may be controversial. I don't know. I think that the remix with Lorde is actually what made the BRAT moment take off. Okay. Because honestly, Von Dutch, not really any noise. Like, obviously, in her community, people cared about it. But outside of that, no. Then she released Club Classics and B2B. Again, the similar effect. 360 had a tiny amount of buzz because of the music video. But that was it. And then when the album came out, people received it well. You know, critics loved it. But no immediate noise from the general public. Although there was a tiny amount of buzz on the standard version of this song. And then the remix came out.
Well, honestly, I was speechless.
The concept of working it out on the remix was never been done before. Never been done before. Lorde had a cult following. People knew about this drama. It was being worked out live on the song. And it was genuinely very well written and very well thought out. The impact of this song made the BRAT persona and the BRAT mission tangible, because that song is the full circle moment that was needed in order for people to grasp it entirely. It took someone like Lorde, someone who has a bit more mainstream appeal, to kind of bridge that gap and make it about Charlie for a hot second. That might be controversial because Charlie still had her moment. I'm not saying that Lorde made her famous, but I am saying that this song, if it had not been for the remix, I don't think BRAT would have taken off the way it did, because it was after this that I started seeing the BRAT memes. And then all of a sudden I hear this term BRAT Summer, and I'm like, oh, this isn't a niche album anymore. It isn't just for the people that get it. It's now for everyone, apparently. Then after that, people started latching onto the hits. 360, Apple, Guess. All of those became huge hits, but only because Girl So Confusing was a thing. Can I be honest, guys? Can I be honest? Will you be mad? Will you be mad? Please don't say you'll be mad. The Apple dance pisses me off. It pissed me off at first. A little bit of clickbait there. Haha, I got you. Then I grew on it. I grew on it after a little bit of time. But when I first saw it, I was like, this is so manufactured. And then I saw more and I was like, all right, it's funny. It's funny. I laughed. Haha. 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 And then it was not funny, and I never laughed again. This song is all about, say it with me now, generational trauma. Yeah! Sonically, it's completely different from the songs that we've heard. It feels a lot more pop in sound rather than like clubby. In my opinion, it works for the album, and it kind of also works for the BRAT ethos, you know, just being like, what the hell? Sure. Narratively, though, it is absolutely necessary. You know, if you think about the natural string of occurring thought, friend dies, you realize, oh shoot, I've been like this all the time. And then you start to think, I might have gotten that from my parents. The apple did, in fact, not fall far from the tree. It's all such a scary feeling that it just makes her want to drive. It's anxiety riddling. It's weird. It's confusing. And she doesn't know how to grapple with it. And she goes to the one thing that she knows how to do, escape. Escapism is her number one best friend. Her and escapism, like that. That's her and that's escapism, yes. It's important that this song, B2B, is right after Apple. It feels very dark in ethos, and it's kind of emphasizing the struggle. She's battling with herself. She's caught in this club, in this feeling. She's in this repetitive cycle, and she does not want to go back. She sees it, and she can't escape quite yet. And all of these tragic things that she's done, you know, she ignored her friends. She doesn't know how to have a grip on life. All of these things just keep on circling around and around. until she finally comes to the conclusion, I don't want to feel feelings. You could kind of label this song as like a crash out, low key. Because this is how she escapes. And this is why she escapes. Because she constantly breaks herself down and builds herself up. And at the end of the day, it's tiring to be a mess. A lot of people will find that this song is very repetitive and dreary. But hey, that's what she's doing. So I would say she did a good job at retelling this narrative.
This one's for all my mean girls.
Mean girls unite. Okay, I'm gonna challenge y'all right now. Describe what a mean girl acts like, wears, thinks, and does. Go. Yeah, all of those things that you named are in this song. Don't actually quote me on that. I don't have enough money to counter sue. Charlie in this song is basically saying, I see y'all, we see each other, and I resonate with you.
It's 4 a.m. and she's out there.
In this moment, I feel like she's saying that there are in fact people like her, and she doesn't feel alone in that anymore.
You already know it, but you don't.
Now she's able to reach out. She's done the dirty work of untangling all of the trauma in her life. And now she's able to finally go out and seek the people that she finds so much comfort in, because they also are going through these same exact things. She sees the girl listening to Lana Del Rey and thinks, I bet she probably thinks her apple's rotten right to the core. Probably thinks she couldn't even be here if she tried. She probably wants to guess the color of your underwear. Wait, anyways, let me ask a question. So, why the piano?
So you're obsessed.
Why all that? I thought this was a club record. I thought this was a classy party. Well, honestly, first of all, hey, sounds cool. People aren't allowed to have cool things anymore. Shut up. Second of all, weirdly enough, it sounds victorious. I think we all listen to Lana Del Rey. But it does in fact feel like a victory rally, like a rally call.
This one's for all my mean girls.
She's got all of these mean girls and they've got her. It is a victory lap for all of those people that felt isolated before. And now they're united and now they can finally celebrate. It feels like a celebration. And for me, it was a very unique way to do that. If the song did not have that piano part, I will say the song would be very weak. But because of that, it adds an extra layer of emotion to the ending of this album, because we are approaching the end.
I think about it all the time.
So this song destroyed me. First listen, by the way. To me, without this song, the album would still feel incomplete. What are we talking about? Children, actually. She starts the song off with talking about how she's in the middle of thinking about her career. She's listening to some songs. She's taking a walk outside. It's ice cold. And she visits her friend and she sees not only the mother,
She's a radiant mother and he's a beautiful father.
but the child, and realizes in that instant how motherhood can change you.
And now they both know these things that I don't.
It's interesting that this comes after the victory lap of Mean Girls and also right before the conclusion. It's the penultimate track, and the penultimate track is supposed to wrap things up in terms of themes and narrative. So what's exactly being wrapped up here? Well, we talked about not fitting in. We talked about being a bad friend. We talked about how it's confusing sometimes to be a girl. And we talked about those things possibly coming from your parents. We've talked about how girls like you understand you and have found a way to find community and move on despite these things happening to you. And while those things have been dealt with on your end, there's still the question of, now what? Is the cycle really over? Are we really done? And the answer is no. In order to truly break the cycle, you need to teach it to someone else. You know, it's interesting. In AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, there are 12 steps, and the 12th step is to actually become a mentor for someone else. Most people who go through Alcoholics Anonymous but do not do that last step end up relapsing. And almost everyone who does do that last step ends up staying sober.
But Alcoholics Anonymous knows that there's these 12 steps, and if you master 11 of the 12 steps, the disease is probably going to get you. But if you master the 12th step, the final step, you're more likely to overcome the disease. So what's the 12th step? The 12th step is to help another alcoholic.
There's something about becoming a mentor for someone, being a teacher, being able to pass on your knowledge. You know, I would be lying if I said I didn't think about fatherhood all of the time. After all, it's how my body is built. So I would not be surprised if women think about motherhood all of the time and how scary it can be to raise a child. You don't want them to make the same mistakes you did. You don't want to make the same mistakes your parents did. And all of these things are so unsure, but all Charlie knows is that she saw her friend, she saw that child, she saw the mother, and she saw a difference. And that shook her because she's been looking for something. She's been looking for something this entire album. She's been looking for purpose. She's been looking for answers. She's been looking for love. And she's been looking for care. And she's been looking for femininity. And in this moment, she says, maybe that's it. Maybe it's the one thing that I'm kind of scared of. I would like to say the production of this song is really interesting. The chords are kind of off-putting at times.
But I might run out of time. But I finally met my baby, and the baby might be mine.
And the vocal delivery feels very off the cuff.
I was walking around in Stockholm. It was ice cold.
No auto-tune at all, which is actually a first for this album. And if we think about the narrative device that it's been playing throughout this entire album, how it's feeling restrictive, now it's actually freeing. She feels free to say all of these things. She feels free in the thought of pursuing this.
We had a conversation on the way home. Should I start my birth control?
And a lot of people may think, okay, she's not a good singer. This sounds bad. That's not the point. It feels honest.
Because my career feels so small in the existential scheme of it all.
And all of that works together to make the song feel so much more impactful and deliberate.
Think about it all the time.
And this song as the penultimate song to wrap up all of the themes of femininity and isolation and purpose. You know, she's been so hyperfixated all of her life on her career, but now that she's here, it still feels small in the existential scheme of it all. This song, I cannot explain it, but every time I hear it, I am immediately 3 shots deep and drunk. So yes, anyways, 365. This song is acceptance. It's no coincidence that it samples 360, which I love as a full circle moment. I love that it starts with this and then somehow also ends with it. It's beautiful. It's profound.
Here we go.
But it is different. It is different in ethos because where 360 was trying to push this artificial narrative that you're better than everyone else, 365 is a full embrace of who you are. Who the F are you? I'm a brat when I'm bumping that. First time we're saying brat, first time we are fully saying and committing to this bit.
Now I wanna hit my track, keep bumping that till the windows crack. I'll be hitting that.
And it's no surprise that at the very end, we finally are embracing this brat persona. All of these things that she's talked about in the album, she is taking it and saying, yeah, you know what? That is me. And I'm not going to escape from it. I am a brat. 365, around the clock. That is me. Eventually, the sample goes off.
French manicure, wipe away the residue. Push my hair back, look hot when I'm running out.
And the beat starts to get harder
Don't eat, just do it on repeat. Keep
and harder. I remember Charlie XCX in a production breakdown says that this song is almost like a concept. You can think of it as like the different stages of a party.
I kind of wanted it to go on this journey of a night out where I'm imagining I'm in this like super club and every door I go through, it's a different room in the club and the room sounds slightly different. And you can really hear that in the track. There's like one part where it feels like I'm kind of in the bathroom, like getting more fucked up. And then at the end, it's like totally blown out. And it's kind of like this journey of a night out where at the end you kind of become this girl who's like, oh, it's like, oh my God, go home. You're being too crazy. You stayed at the party for too long. There's like an annoying friend who's like, come on, Charlie. And then you're just like, fuck it. But you like look like shit.
The beginning is getting ready and the very end is like you are completely wasted and you're just in it. You start to lose a sense of space once you get to the party and you've been drinking and you're just kind of lost a little bit. You go from room to room and then eventually you just embrace it and you're jumping and you're having a good time. And that's how the album ends. The album ends with this notion of embracing who you are, where you are, and whatever may come your way. And I do find that really profound, especially with the things that we've been talking about. You know, life is confusing, people are confusing, girls so confusing, but I don't care. I'm a brat when I'm bumping that. 365 party girl. All of these things that Charlie is talking about is within the life cycle, so to speak, of a brat. At the end of the day, Brat is an album about women. Women who feel out of place, who want to feel loved, who want to be seen, and women who kind of just want a good time. BRAT's mission statement at the end of the album is stay true to yourself. Do not bend to anyone. You will find your people eventually. Even when faced with the kindness of people, even when faced with jealousy, even when faced with harsh realities, stay true to yourself. Understand who you are and embrace it. To grow with the parts of yourself that you don't actually like. The only two choices you have are either to cast it to the side and be like everyone else, or to embrace it fully. Welcome the idea of your shortcomings because it makes you feel alive and it makes you feel like you. This is more than just accepting yourself. This is learning what it means to be real. What it truly means to be real and authentic. What does it mean to be yourself? It means to accept everything. And it doesn't mean that you are immune to growth. You can take everything and make it better. You can still be a brat and be grown. And that's beautiful. Truthfully, BRAT is a very vulnerable and fragile narrative about a woman in a modern society that is trying to tackle this sense of purpose while also dealing with a culture of escapism. And the best answer she can come up with, stay true to yourself and be a brat when you're bumping that. That's all I have. Honestly, I just wanted to do this because it was my favorite record of last year and honestly one of my favorite pop records of all time. I would love to do a breakdown of the remix album because I feel like that recontextualizes the entire narrative, but in a new time. This took a while to get out because I've got my job and I've been doing this in between and it's very time consuming, but it's what I love to do. So I appreciate you guys listening all the way through. Please subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next breakdown. See you later.